Hello and welcome to the news here on Magic Bricks, now India's first property business channel. I'm Krishna Kumar. Let's take a look at the top stories that we're tracking. The Ishwar Committee recommendations of simplification of the tax process suggests doing away with circle rates or ready reckoner rates. This could be a game changer. The slowing drag in China has spooked capital markets worldwide, but investors are still positive on the India real estate story. Bengaluru's hottest IT hubs are also the city's most polluted areas. In fact, a survey that's just out says air quality in places like Outer Ring Road and Whitefield are unhealthy. Straight to our top story then. The Ishwar Committee, set up to simplify the Income Tax Act, has good news for both buyers and builders. The recommendations could reduce your tax burden on property transactions. So what are those tax-friendly recommendations? My colleague Disha Shah gets us this report.
Ahead of the budget, Ishwar Committee has submitted its recommendations to the government to make tax laws more simpler. Tax experts believe that some of the recommendations that the committee had submitted to the government early this week could also have a huge impact on the real estate market. To highlight three key recommendations that are part of the draft, firstly, date of sale is irrelevant now. The committee recommends that capital gains could be computed only on the basis of the agreement registration date. And wherever needed, ready reckoner rates or circle rates that are in force on the date of registration only needs to be taken into account. Secondly, in cases where sale price is lower than the ready reckoner rates or the circle rate, only in such during such transactions, seller will need to pay tax on the capital gains. As we all know that till date, buyer and seller, both the parties have been paying taxes on the capital gains. So this won't be the case anymore because the committee clearly recommends that this leads to double taxation of the same income. So this clause needs to be floated and deleted, and buyer need not have to pay taxes on the capital gains. Lastly, the committee has recommended that tax deducted at source, or even called as TDS rates, for individuals could be reduced from 10% to 5%. And lastly, tax experts believe that if these recommendations are implemented and if government takes care of all these recommendations, there could be a huge impact on the property market transactions. And some of these recommendations are likely to be a part of the union budget, which will be presented on 29th of February this year.
All right, then let's now get an expert perspective on this big story. We are being joined by Sameer Kanabar, Partner, Tax and Regulatory Service at Ernst & Young LLP. Sameer, thank you so much for being with us here on the news on Magic Bricks. Now tell us, what are the big changes recommended, that will impact property market transactions?
From a real estate perspective, there are two important changes which have been recommended. So the income tax law provides that the seller has to consider the sale value as per the agreement or the value determined as per ready reckoner or for stamp duty valuation purpose, whichever is higher. So assuming that if the value as per agreement is less than the stamp duty value, then stamp duty value being the higher will be considered for computing the capital gains. So committee has recommended that for computation of capital gains also we should stick to the same norms on the basis of which stamp duty has been paid, dehours of the date of sale. The second one is also a very welcome recommendation. If the seller has sold the property, immovable property, at a value which is less than the ready reckoner value, and that is what is mentioned in the agreement, then on the opposite side, the buyer was also required to pay tax on the differential value. Under those rulings, the courts have held that the buyer should not be made to pay the tax if seller has already paid the tax.
My colleague Disha was just mentioning that the committee has recommended that TDS rates for individuals be reduced to 5% from 10%. Tell us, how will this exactly benefit be it the buyer or the seller?
So what government has recommended is a reduction in rate from 10% to 5% is more likely to benefit the developers or the contractors or the builders. How it will benefit? Because if a higher tax is being deducted at 10% and your actual tax liability is much lower than the what tax has been deducted, then obviously one had to file first return. After filing return, one had to get a refund, which used to take sort of maybe a couple of years from the date when tax gets deducted. So it was a long drawn procedure, and if assessment happens, then it takes further time. So to simplify this, government has suggested that why not reduce the withholding rate from 10% to 5%.
All right, Samir, now before we let you go, tell us, what are the chances that the government will act on these recommendations? Can we expect any announcements in the finance bill?
I personally believe that this committee has done really a good job. I also believe that it meets the expectations of the government, and hence now it is for government to sort of now walk the talk. And I believe that government will certainly, even if not all the recommendations come in, because there are various recommendations, at least some of them should come in this budget.
All right, Samir, we will let it go at that. Samir Kanabar of Ernst & Young LLP, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on the news on Magic Bricks Now. On that note, it's time now to take a look at some other stories that have made headlines in the property world today. Urban Development Minister Venkaiah Naidu says Smart City list is set to be out by the end of the month, and Phase 2 of Chennai Metro Rail project is set to be fast-tracked, and construction of the 6-lane Yamuna Bridge in Delhi will be completed ahead of its deadline. Let's take a look at these stories in brief.
The top 20 list of smart cities will be announced by the end of the month, says Urban Development Minister Venkaiah Naidu. The minister said that the expert committee is handling the selection process and the ministry is not involved in this. He added that the smart city mission is on track as per the government schedule. The smart cities mission will see 100 Indian cities being developed with the assistance of the central government over the next 5 years. Phase 2 of the Chennai Metro Rail project is being fast-tracked. K. Rosaya, the governor of Tamil Nadu, announced this development in the assembly recently. Phase 2 of the metro project will cover 88 kilometers via 3 corridors. The project is expected to cost over 44,000 crore rupees. The reason for the fast track is the assistance needed from the Japan International Cooperation Agency, or JICA. JICA will assist the state in strengthening its metro rail network. Additionally, Governor Rosaya said passenger services in the remaining sections of the Chennai Metro will commence shortly. Currently, the 10.15 km stretch between Coimbatore and Alandur is fully operational. The 6-lane Yamuna Bridge that is under construction will be completed before its January 2017 deadline, announced Ramaraman, the chairman of the Noida, Greater Noida and Yamuna Expressway Development Authorities. The bridge, which is parallel to the existing Okla barrage, will be completed 3 months in advance. The bridge will boost connectivity in the Delhi NCR region and make the commute between Delhi, Faridabad, Noida and Greater Noida faster. Additionally, the parallel bridge at Okla barrage will be completed by the end of October this year.
Now, over this week, we have been getting you some exclusive peeks at the real estate sector's expectations from this upcoming budget. At the PHDCCI conference today, my colleague Deepa Rana caught up with DLF's CEO Rajiv Talwar, who gave us his list of expectations from the upcoming budget. Listen in.
I think immediately in the budget, what we need to do is first to give industry status so that banks and finance and reinvestment of profits can take place. Number 2 is indexation. For instance, in Section 2024B, let us facilitate the buyer that if he has to repay a loan and the limit was raised of exemption to 2 lakhs, I think we need to make it 3 to 4 lakhs, keeping in view that it was 150 for a very long time. Real estate regulatory bill hopes to address all sins of the past. They still don't change the game. It's just a policing strategy. I think a much better option would be to have a regulator for regulating industry as it grows in the future, not as it was in the past. And one big rule change which can make a difference and reduce the role to a very positive regulator is that no residential accommodation should be allowed to be sold to buyers till the superstructure is complete. Because to have a superstructure means that your title of land is clear, your approvals are in place, and what product you will finally give to the buyer will almost be visible to him. I think with that one basic rule, the role of the regulator as it is envisaged today will change totally.
Now, it may be the IT hub of India, but Bengaluru is also one of the most polluted cities in the country. Areas in Bengaluru would see the highest office space absorption, be it Whitefield or the Outer Ring Road, also see maximum pollution within the city. What exactly is the government doing about this? Amita Balachandra finds out.
That's right, IT concentrated areas or areas that saw the maximum office space absorption over the last 1 year, that accounted to 80% of net office space absorption in the city of Bengaluru, are also the most polluted areas in the city. Now, in a recent study that's been conducted by Janagraha called Street Quality Check, it points out that certain areas like Basavanapura Road, Whitefield, ITPL Road, Outer Ring Road, all these areas have high pollution levels. In fact, the levels exceed PM 2.5 levels, which is the average, which means it's above 153 micrograms per cubic meter, which also means that the air citizens in these areas are breathing are very unhealthy, leading to respiratory illnesses. Now, the air pollution in the city has been attributed to vehicular emissions. So when we spoke to the traffic police of the city of Bengaluru, they told us that to control traffic in the city, to decongest these roads in particular, they have rolled out carpooling services, especially in the southeast of Bengaluru, in the areas that I just mentioned. However, this has been rolled out in October, and they tell us that over the last 2-3 months, it has had no impact on the city's traffic whatsoever. What we're also hearing is that the state government so far does not have any long-term solution to control traffic, to decongest these areas, and to control the rising air pollution levels in the city.
All right, away from that and on to the stock market, which remained in the news today as global cues spooked equity markets worldwide. But if there's one asset class that is still holding strong for investors, it is Indian real estate. That was the buzz among top Indian and global investors who gathered for the RICS conference held in Mumbai today. Aishwarya Paliwal gets us this report.
Markets, whether at home or abroad, have been volatile all this week, with bears ruling the roost. But that did not serve to dampen the enthusiasm of leading developers, consultants or investors gathered at the RICS conference in Mumbai. In fact, private equity players are betting big on the Indian real estate sector. Most investors Magic Bricks now spoke to were unanimous that investments in 2016 could outstrip that seen last year. According to the data from Venture Intelligence, private equity firms had pumped in over $5 billion in the Indian real estate sector in 2015.
I think so. I think we will certainly cross that mark. There is a lot of money that's come through.
What's happening is that money now is coming in for the longer term. An increasing portion of this is also coming in as equity, not debt. Consultants who broker these deals say that most of the funds are now adopting a long-term view.
The ideal duration which most funds would like to invest in is 4 to 5 years.
Delegates at the conference were also unanimous that among all the emerging markets, India is the top pick. Aishwarya Paliwal, Mumbai.
Moving on to the company which has witnessed a strong quarter thanks to strong loan demand. India Bulls Housing Finance has seen a 30% growth in the third quarter. Company officials claim that real estate market is the reason behind this. My colleague Disha Shah caught up with the company's Vice Chairman and Managing Director Gagan Banga and discussed about the company's loan book growth and where the demand is growing forward. Listening.
Overall, the book has grown by almost 30%. So which is a very, very robust growth. We continue to focus on giving more and more home loans of around 24-25 lakh of rupees. So that's the core area of focus. And that as an overall percentage of our asset mix continues to grow. And that particular segment is witnessing a reasonably robust demand. I think the overall industry is growing at between 18 and 19% for this particular segment. We are growing faster and we are obviously gaining a little bit of market share also.
Okay. So which is the average ticket size which is in demand? Like you said that you're getting registrations from Bangalore, Mumbai and Hyderabad. So which is the average ticket size which is in demand, and are you getting demand from the metro cities or even tier 2 cities on that front?
So the area where we are seeing maximum growth is between 15 and 75 lakh of rupees. Our average area of focus is 24 to 25 lakh of rupees. And that segment basically is both in metros as well as tier 2 and tier 3 locations. It generally hovers in homes of where on a per square feet basis homes are being sold at around 4,000 rupees a square foot, and the average ticket size of the house is around 1,000 square feet.
So realty is coming out of a tough year. So do these numbers indicate that the market is reviving, the pain for the real estate sector is over?
I would not say the pain for real estate sector is over, but clearly this particular segment, which is loans which are more affordable in value, that segment has been growing. The premium end of the market is still slow. Affordability has been increasing as wage inflation has been north of 10%. So all of these factors put together are allowing the affordable segment part to continue to grow. The premium and super premium part of the market is still quite slow.
Now, here's a quick reminder to all our viewers. BJP spokesperson Shaina NC had announced on the urban debate here on Magic Bricks Now that the government wants citizens to send in their suggestions and changes that they would like to see in the Maharashtra regulator. So if you or anyone you know wants to make any suggestions, then do send in your questions, queries and suggestions to feedback@mbnow.in, and we promise to send it across to the government.
It is India's landmark regulation, and the government wants suggestions.
If there are any written appeals that come through you, Faye, from your viewers, from people who are part of the housing fraternity, so I would request you, please do use me as a tool to reach out to make your voice heard.
Magic Bricks Now, the voice of Indian real estate.
And if you have any other feedback or suggestions for us, write to us on the same email ID, feedback@mbnow.in. We're also on Twitter and Facebook, so feel free to tweet to us or post your query on our Facebook page. We would love to hear from you. Also remember to check out our live streaming website, www.mbnow.in. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the news on Magic Bricks Now. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.